I forget. Well, welcome everyone. I anticipate that more will be joining us as the hour goes along. My name is Amy Lukes, and I am the Director of AOT Implementation here at Treatment Advocacy Center. There are some new faces here. Before we get started with the introductions, though, Betsy, do you?
Oh. Hello, everybody. Good to see so many. We are expecting quite a few more, though, so hopefully they'll join us quickly. For those of you who haven't turned on your cameras and you'd be willing to do so, we'd love to see your face. It makes it easier to connect with you and network. So, but good to see you all.
Thank you. And then before we go on to Hollywood Squares, we have a couple of TAC staff here too. So I'd like them to introduce themselves. Jerry?
You bet. I'm Jerry Clark. I'm coming to you from Southwest Washington State. I am a family resource and advocacy manager for Treatment Advocacy Center. So I have a lot of engagement with family members who call in seeking support. And I've been a longtime AOT champion in Washington State.
That's great. And finally, Nate has just joined us as of the 1st, or was it Monday? The 1st?
Yeah, this last Friday.
Yeah.
1st.
So welcome, Nate. You want to share what your role will be at TAC?
Yeah, so I will be basically making like animated videos and live videos for the social media pages.
He's done some amazing work. He actually, do you mind if I tell this story?
Oh, totally.
So, he just reached out and said, I made this video and the content is right up your alley. If you could kind of spread it around a little bit. And the video was really compelling, and it was about a friend of yours or a friend of yours mother.
It was about a man in Georgia who had a police report come out, and then I got in contact with his mother and tried to change information to maintain confidentiality.
Anyway, it was so impressive. I shared it with my colleagues who also thought it was really impressive. So now he's a member of the team. And we're not sure what the content will be necessarily, but we hope to have something creative to start the symposium off with in a year. So welcome, Nate. Now we'll do Hollywood Squares. As you introduce yourself, share where you're from, where your program is in terms of implementation. Some of you are just getting started. And then also any barriers you may be experiencing. And again, if you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras, it's okay if you don't, but we just like to see faces and build community. So thank you very much. Did I mention the barriers? I did. Laura, you go first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Braun. I'm the program manager for the Assisted Outpatient Treatment Program in Bernalillo County. We're located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We were a 4-year SAMHSA grant recipient, which has since expired. We have experienced all the barriers and I think continue to do so, with our most troubling barrier just being providers, provider shortages here in our area, which is odd. We don't have a funding issue, we have a provider issue. We have money, but nobody will take it. And so we have been working on this problem for almost 2 years. It's just been crazy, but enough of that. Nice to be here.
Magistrate G.
Hi, I'm Heather Yekinyeshi. I'm a magistrate court administrator in Portage County, Ohio. Our program is very new, and our issues tend to be kind of the same stuff as Laura was kind of explaining. We have some money, but getting providers, or the few providers we have, claim staffing issues to doing something. It has been our struggle to really get it going, so we are slowly trudging along.
And still in Ohio, Michael. Are you on mute? Because we can't hear you. You don't seem to be on mute. How about if we come back? Nick.
I'm Nick Schrantz from Butler County, Ohio, and we are the county north of Cincinnati. We've had a program for 20 to 25 years. I've been in my role as the probate court monitor for 16 years. We have 100 respondents on our assisted outpatient treatment program. Our biggest barrier is lack of access to civil patients getting into the state hospital for treatment when they become non-adherent to treatment through the probate court program. It used to be accessible to us, and so we were able to utilize the court order to get people treatment as needed at the state hospital. We are no longer able to do that, and because all the other hospitals are private, it's much more difficult to get treatment by court order for non-adherent respondents.
So just so I understand, getting people back into the hospital.
Yes, so if somebody is non-adherent to treatment and we want to utilize the court order to act quicker and not wait till they totally decompensate and cause brain damage, I'd like to use the court order, and that's why it's there, to get them into a hospital. It's just much harder to do when we can only work with private hospitals. They have to wait till someone's decompensated enough in order to bill the insurance if we were trying to get them there. Whereas in the past with the state hospital, we could write a court order and they could get to the hospital prior to significant decompensation, and it was much more effective, most importantly for the patient.
Absolutely. Thank you. Melinda.
I'm Melinda Driggers. I work for Mendocino County Behavioral Health in Ukiah, California. I am the AOT coordinator. And some of the barriers that we've had is we don't have any local psychiatric facilities per se. So it is similar to previously, it's hard to get that person that's not willing to participate in services to be able to order them to get the assessment done. We also have a lot of housing issues, but I think that's just California in general.
No, it's across
Oh,
the
it's
country.
everywhere, huh?
It's everywhere.
And this is like my second meeting. Normally, this is my court time, but it happened, this meeting landed on an off week, so I was able to join.
Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you for joining. Tammy.
Hi, I'm Tammy Meek. I work at Centerstone of Indiana. We are starting a new behavioral health court here in Bartholomew County. And so, yay, we've not experienced any barriers yet, but I'm sure we will. So this is all brand new to me, and we are excited to be involved in it for sure. But yeah, I don't know a lot about it yet.
Well, we're so glad to see you, and keep coming back because this group is very smart. And so if you have questions, this group is the group to ask.
Okay, great.
Drew Taylor.
Hello, all from Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. My position with Lehigh County is the Director of Forensic Services. I manage our sequential intercept model, narrative and resources. I am very new to the AOT, and Betsy and Amy are helping us along. We are very interested in this process. We have some really great collaborative resources, and we feel like this would be a really good part of that overall helps to our folks, our folks that have mental illness in our criminal justice system. Interesting to note, putting together an email to a neighboring county for my sister-in-law who suffers from serious mental illness. And it's, again, a repeated thing that we all are aware of, and what AOT really speaks to in terms of this pattern. She assaulted her boyfriend again, and she's back in the county jail. And I'm reaching out to my forensic colleagues there to provide some help. They don't have AOT, but this would be a perfect person that could assist. So kind of ironic.
Hey, another real quickly, I don't mean to interrupt, but another irony here is, Drew, I want to introduce you to Ariel, who's going to introduce herself in just a minute, but Ariel is from Lorain County. Her judge is going to be presenting to the group tomorrow that you will be participating on. So it might be worthwhile to ask your buddy in the neighboring county if he wants to participate in that. It might just help him understand kind of what a program looks like.
Oh, you're on mute.
This is the frontline forensic team that I'm reaching out to that goes into the jail. So I don't know if that, and we've also reached out to that county to kind of, see where they're at in the whole AOT process.
Excellent.
Ariel, you're next.
So I'm just, Drew, it sounds like you reached out to Cuyahoga County. Is that what it sounds like? Because that's frontline.
No, he was talking about something, not an organization named Frontline.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm Ariel. I'll neither here nor there. I'm Ariel Edwards. I am in Lorain County, Ohio, at the Mental Health Addiction Recovery Services Board. I serve as our probate and AOT monitor. I think our program has been up and running for at least 5-6 years at this point. Probably a little bit longer because I've almost been here that long, which is scary. The barriers I would add, I think I've added this before in the past, but I think they've both gotten better here, but I think there's still concerns. One, we're still losing people between being probated in the hospital and discharge. The ones that are linked with like our agencies are great, like we can find them, but the folks that are getting discharged, we've asked the hospitals to let us know, include us in discharge planning. It's still not happening. The courts aren't being notified. Whenever Nick says 100 folks, I'm like, what? How is this happening? That's awesome. So I think like that's one thing we're still struggling with, is how to get that communication and continuation from hospital to discharge. The other thing is the continuations on the other side. So the continued commitment, we were having issues with the attorneys, kind of arguing against that. I get that's their job, right? Like they're supposed to defend the client in terms of continuation, but like it was almost like proving that AOT was a bad thing for them. And we're like, no, it's not that. So we were struggling to get some of those folks continued. But I think it has gotten better. It was one particular attorney. So I know I mentioned that last time, I think, and you guys were saying that there were some good ones out there in other counties. But it seemed to have improved for now. But that's still a concern for me. But that's it for me.
Thanks, Ariel. Lisa?
My name is Lisa Westland. I work for the Washington State Healthcare Authority. I was recently hired as the AOT administrator for the implementation of AOT in Washington State. And we're having just implementation problems, just, getting everybody on the same page with the courts and who's going to be able to provide the services, and lack of providers And so we're working on it.
You sure are. And speaking of Washington, Mandy.
Hi, so I'm Mandy Moore. I'm the AOT coordinator for the Great Rivers region in Washington, which is basically a five-county region in Southwest Washington. And I'll just agree with what Lisa had said with the challenges across the board and implementation. We're really having challenges with engaging the courts. And I think part of that reasoning is because we already have involuntary treatment orders for individuals coming out of hospitals. And so AOT basically expands who can be placed on an order, who can petition, and the length of an order. So the courts have been dragging their feet in implementing a new workflow when they're already, as they say, at capacity and overburdened. So we're trying to figure out how we can plug into already existing system and resources. And yes, on the other side, there's staffing shortages and the providers that we're working with. And so addressing those concerns as well. But currently we are looking at amending contracts that we have with agencies that already provide the least restrictive alternative monitoring to include AOT into those services.
And similar to what Betsy said to Drew, I'm going to say to you as well. We have Judge Winnell from Kansas joining the next stakeholders meeting, who is I don't know, he can talk anybody into anything. He's just a very compelling speaker and really believes in the AOT program. So
great. I'm looking forward to meeting him, hearing what he has to say, like connecting him with people in our region.
Yeah. Invite your lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Denisha Reed.
Hello, I am Denisha Reed in Battle Creek for Summit Point. We're the only Calhoun County CMH in our area. I am currently I'm a supervisor, but I'm now the AOT lead. Our AOT program is in our 4th grant year, and we are not renewing the actual grant for our AOT. We're just going to implement it back into our regular case management team again. Currently, like, our whole AOT team is new. We unfortunately lost like everybody that was on the team like at the end of July. So everybody is on there that's new. Santisha Ship down there is our new AOT monitor. So she's jumping in on here because she is now taking board. She's currently still within her 90 days right now. And so we really haven't really faced too many problems right now. We addressed the one issue that we did have today with our probate court, and that was they were making us do our orders in the county that the customer lived in if we placed them there, like in a specialized residential, but now they're going to allow us to utilize our courts again if we are the placing agency.
Excellent. Well, welcome. We haven't heard from Calhoun County in a while. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome to your first 90 days.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So you're the AOT coordinator, coordinator. Monitor, AOT monitor. How many people do you have in your program now?
So our program consists of 2 case managers, 1 healthcare advocate, 1 peer support, and yeah, that's it.
How many people do you have on orders?
So the AOT team only, so I don't know if anybody else do it this way, but our AOT team only monitors our community-based customers, but the AOT we have over 100 and something customers that's actually on an AOT, but some are on our regular case management team. If they're in a specialized residential, because they already receive CLS services and more intense services. We have some that's on our outpatient team that's just receiving therapy, but our actual AOT program, each case manager only monitors 25 customers. And the only reason why we do that is because those customers are seen on a weekly basis, at least 3 to 4 times a week. So they're seen once by the case manager, once by the healthcare advocate, and twice by the peer support every week to monitor them. So that's why the caseloads are so small on the actual team.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kiana.
Hi, I'm Kiana Brown with Pawnee Mental Health Service in Riley County, Kansas. I am the AOT liaison, and we have 18 people now, and it's me and one other case manager for those 18 people. And our biggest barrier right now, I can say, is again, that communication with the hospital when our people are being discharged. We kind of lose them because the hospital would let us know maybe 48 hours after they were already discharged, and that doesn't help as much because now I have to go and look for them and find them. So it causes a little problem, but I've recently got in touch with our state hospital liaison to kind of coordinate a little closely and kind of give them a list and say, hey, these are our AOT consumers. If they come across your desk, loop us in so we can be on top of it as well and have an appointment set before they're given discharge papers.
Excellent. Excellent. Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. I'm glad you called. I have an emergency case I need to follow up with. So I'm Sharon Preston. I'm the Director of Emergency and Court Services for Bucks County. So I oversee all the crises for the county and work with all the orders, mental health orders, and oversee the forensic mental health. So AOT has not taken off in Bucks County. We have one active case that we have been, we've gotten some motion. We've been working on it for 1.5 years to get to the point where we are. And that case is going to go to court on January 9th. We've had a really hard time getting any hearings in a quick turnaround time. And we cannot get the hospitals to cooperate with us. And much like what Mandy said, we have already orders set up. And so it's a stronger order and it's easier and they're familiar with it to just order outpatient, versus the 304, 303, 304, 305. We do have one that's coming up of interest. I reached out, the person's currently inpatient, and I reached out to the hospital to see if they would cooperate. And they are not calling me back. They were adamant about not doing it with the one case that we have when he went inpatient. So we're going to have to file in the community to do it. So that's where we are.
Sorry to hear that.
It's been a lot of work for.
Yeah, I know you've been at this a long time. Alicia Silva.
Hi, sorry, I had my camera off trying to get in a couple bites of food because another meeting right after this. I'm the AOT lead for Contra Costa County, California, it's Bay Area, and we've had our AOT program since early 2015. In terms of barriers, I think like many of the other counties I've spoken with recently, it's more so we foresee a potential issue, or we're just kind of, I guess we're hanging on tight with care court implementation coming soon and wondering how that's going to impact the AOT requests, and we just foresee potential capacity issues and just a great increase in the number of requests coming our way. So we're bracing ourselves and also trying to figure out how to prepare for that, and also wondering what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think we're all wondering what's going to happen with Care Court. Anybody who washes. Tammy Casiano?
Hi, everyone. I had my camera off because I've been having struggles with my computer, so hopefully it'll let me stay on. I'm from Santa Barbara County, California, and we've been around since 2017 is when we had our pilot AOT program start. And I think for our barriers, mostly it's been the way we have it set up. We have 3 different regions in our county. One of them is run by our county, and the other 2 regions are run by CBOs. And the barriers we run into is if they don't have enough staff in those areas, in those regions, and being able to get all of the engagement attempts that are needed, knowing that they don't have any staff that are identified specifically just for AOT. And so that becomes a barrier to getting all of the services and engagement attempts completed. So we're right now talking about how we might be able to look at how we have this set up and what the options might be, whether it's adding new staff or whether it's looking at how we have it set up, and whether it would be more county staff in the different regions so that we'd be able to make sure that we're not impacting our CBO so much. So it's just it's a conversation right now we're having, but nothing's been determined yet. That's one of our barriers. Another barrier that we see is also in the court system, being able to get in, being able to continue to get the information we need, and being able to work in conjunction with our forensic teams. So we have that concern. And also, like everyone's been talking about, seeing really looking forward to seeing how Care Court being rolled out is going to impact us as well.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to hand this off to Betsy, who's going to talk about, oh, no, wait a minute. Michael, are you able to talk now?
Yeah. You want to hear me?
Sort of. I guess not. Sorry. If you have something you want to share, I think you're going to have to put it in the chat. And then we just had someone join, Letitia Elder Johnson. You'd like to introduce yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Latasha. I'm from Resource and Crisis Center, a crisis intervention specialist. Me and a couple of others should be joining in on the webinar.
Well, excellent. We're glad you're here. Betsy.
Thanks. I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about HIPAA and privacy and how it interacts with AOT. Before I do that, though, Amy, I just want to let you know, I wrote down sort of the key barriers. I don't know if you probably didn't have a chance to do that while you were listening. So I just kind of go through. Oh, you got them all? Awesome.
I don't know if I got them all, but I got them.
Well, I have provider shortages, attorneys not understanding the goals of AOT, lack of communication / cooperation with hospitals, staff turnover, psych hospitals not willing to admit AOT for lack of adherence and judicial engagement. We're sort of the themes that I picked up on. But anyway, so that's for our conversation later. But one thing I just wanted to talk with you all about, it seems like recently I've just been getting hit with a lot of HIPAA related questions. A lot of folks, sort of hiding, I guess in my opinion, kind of hiding behind HIPAA as a reason not to proceed with AOT. Some of the things I've heard, or like we heard earlier, some programs provide a list of individuals who are on AOT to their hospitals, so that the hospitals are aware that they're in the program, so that they don't discharge them without communicating back to that they're communicating with the program and not accepting voluntary agreements. And some programs are saying, oh, they can't share that list with the hospitals because they don't have a release of information from the individuals, and vice versa. Some providers are saying that they can't file a petition with PHI because they don't have a signed ROI by the participant, so they can't even file the petition with the court to get an AOT petition moving, which I think is crazy. What are some other, we're just getting a number of these questions. So we've reached out to a privacy expert who's an attorney and really understands, HIPAA, federal HIPAA law very well. And so we're going to come up with sort of a list of questions to pose to her and have her write, some answers so that we have them in writing so that we can share them with you. And there'll be, it won't be just a staff at TAC telling you what we think, which is kind of how it's been, but it will be an attorney with experience in this area who's, recognized as a HIPAA expert, putting her responses to some of these questions in writing. So I was hoping maybe we could just spend a minute or two. If you have a HIPAA related question, if you could just share it with me, now would be a great time. Or you can either tell it, explain it, or in here, or write it in the chat, or in the next few days, if something comes to you that you think would be really helpful to have an answer to in writing. We're collecting these questions. My hope is to have it compiled and then submit it to the attorney at the end of the year, early next year, so that we can get some answers and we can then share them back with you all. So I want to be thoughtful about this and make sure that we get all those questions collected beforehand, because it's probably one of those a one-time opportunity here. So does anybody have any questions right now that you're struggling with that you'd like a response to?
Heather?
So we had actually one of these this past week. Well, maybe 2 weeks ago now. Our local crisis stabilization unit filed their mental health affidavit here to start the outpatient process. In the interim, in like less than 48 hours, the decompensation got a lot worse. They wanted to leave, so they did go the pink slip route. When we went out to serve the person on the affidavit, like the following day, they were no longer at the crisis stabilization unit to give them service. And when we asked, well, where can we find them? They said that was HIPAA protected and they couldn't tell us.
Oh my gosh.
That's awful.
It's like, didn't you file this?
Right. I said, I'm not asking for their medical records. You literally gave us an address and used the crisis unit as the person's address.
Oh my.
You gave us more in your affidavit saying they needed it.
Oh my goodness.
So I think it was like classic using HIPAA as a weapon or an excuse. And no amount of us from the court even going, that's not how HIPAA works. We're asking for an address, not for medical. We don't need a release. We're not asking for medical information. So if those kind of things can be addressed, and if you're going to get an opinion, it would be nice to have a source outside of the local courthouse to go, here's some information, educate yourself.
Right. That's what we're hoping to provide. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I know that some people we consult with really struggle with getting the evidence to support the affidavit because of HIPAA. Is that something that any of you have run into?
I'll say that's something that we've run into. I think one of the things about our program is I want to say probably half of our referrals come from the community outside of the hospital. And so for us to try to collect that collateral to support the petition as, you know, kind of part of that assessment piece, to know the history, we run into a lot of barriers because we don't have that you know, that ROI, that consent form signed by the individual to collect those records, in which you know, that individual doesn't really have the insight to know that they need this, so they deny signing that document. And so we have those barriers in being able to collect the evidence that we need to move the petition forward on those community referrals.
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of backwards to know that you need this, but I mean, someone who is refusing treatment they're not going to sign a release. So how do you make this work without that?
I'm curious, is anybody here, are you sharing information with law enforcement, with your sheriff? Like if you have folks in your program, are they aware that they're in the program? So if they pick them up, they know that there's an active AOT order.
We have a dual response team that works with our sheriff's department and law enforcement.
And you share so they know.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So our police department or sheriff's department don't know that they're on order until we do like a non-compliance pickup order, and then we send the initial order with them with the information also on the pickup order and then the non-compliance. That's the only way they actually know that they're on that order.
We have a pretty good partnership with our local crisis intervention unit. And so when someone's ordered into AOT as part of our qualified order of protection, we put that unit on that we can just at least share our list with them.
Okay.
So that way, if they do have interaction, they notify us.
We don't give our police department a list per se of everybody that's in the program, but when we do get that order filed from the court, our court staff make sure our police department is on that email chain and they acknowledge that they see that order, that AOT order that's been filed.
We don't do any of that. I mean, like I do our CIT training, so I make sure they're aware of what AOT is in case the individuals that comes up. But I do like the idea of looping them into for some of those folks to be helpful if they come across them. But right now, I'm just making sure they know what AOT is, and if they have any questions, who to contact in that instance.
Excellent. This is helpful. Yeah, if something, if you think of something you'd like, an answer to, we'd love to hear from you in the next couple of weeks. We'll hopefully have something early next year that we can share that's official that you can share with, that you can take with them when you hear these things come up, and it will cite the code where it makes it permissible.
I think one of the things that's come up for us a lot of times is that a lot of our referrals are coming from family members. And so when they refer one of their loved ones in, they want to continue to contact us and get updates.
Right.
And we haven't been able to give them those updates. So when we reach out to the referring party initially, we let them know how that will work, and we encourage them to contact us with any information they feel would be helpful to us as we begin this engagement process, but that we won't be able to continue to give them updates until, if we're successful in establishing rapport and they agree to services, then of course we attempt to get an ROI. But we say that all up front. But we do encourage them to call and give us information, because we need to know if they've moved, or if they're frequenting a different area, or if there's any other pertinent information that might be helpful to us.
That's excellent. Tammy, do you by any chance have any of that in writing? Like if a family member wants to, refer a loved one, about what that process looks like? And
It's mostly been verbal, but we definitely could put something together if it would be helpful.
Yeah, if you do ever get a chance to do that, we'd love to see that. We want to try and collect some best practices and share with others, because we think that would really help alleviate some of the the concerns of families if they see that up front, that's
Before I forget, Betsy, is that something we should add to our family participants family manual?
In terms of HIPAA?
Yeah, no, just that please contact us with any information, but we may not be able to. Just everything that Tammy said, just putting that in there.
I think it's in there.
Is it? It's been a while since I've looked at it.
Yeah. But I think that, for each of the programs to sort of have that spelled out, I think, on your website or somewhere, at least on something that you can provide families ahead of time. To help manage their expectations early on, so. The other thing we wanted to throw out there, and Amy, I don't want to jump ahead of you, but I know the issue of hospital communication has come up several times today. We were just curious to hear if any of you participated in that webinar a couple weeks ago with, we had folks from Houston and from Louisville, Kentucky present on how they communicate with, how they partner with their hospitals. Just wondered if anybody here had a chance to watch that, and if you've found it helpful, if there is, anything that you were able to, tidbit that you picked up with that you've been able to take and run with, or. Okay. Well, we can share if you didn't have a chance to watch it, we can share the link with you after this meeting, so you can, watch it it's actually available on Treatment Advocacy Center. Oh,
sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm getting the link, and I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah. Because I think, the goal was really to address some of the issues you all raised in terms of, being able to get hospitals to buy into this program, to understand that they benefit from AOT just as the rest of the system does, including the participants. So you might find it worthwhile in addressing some of those issues, something you can share with hospitals if they'll take the time to watch it.
I did have a chance to watch that, Betsy, but I missed probably the conversation that occurred after the speakers. And I definitely found that it would be helpful for hospital, because that's one of our struggles, is to get buy-in from our local hospital. And I feel like it's really helpful hearing from people who are already doing it, but I think the problem that we have is to get the buy-in, to get them to want to do it. And so I guess that's maybe, I don't know if there was any more in that chat that maybe spoke more towards kind of how to kind of initiate those conversations, because I think it's great that once you get them to the table, that they can hear that this is helpful and worthwhile, and that hospitals can see the benefit, and we're reducing your caseload and recidivism of the revolving door. But we're having a hard time to even get them to come to the table.
Yeah.
So.
And that did come up in I don't know if it was in the Q&A or even in the presentation, but I think the response to that was just really persistence, knocking on doors and really just being persistent and getting to the attention of the right person. But
we used to have past meetings with our hospital, and that was extremely helpful because they were able to provide direct requests in that moment. So they were able to kind of go through their list, have a conversation, consult with us if needed, and then be able to say, okay, we want to send this over to AOT, and then we could just get it done in the moment. And that way they're not sitting there trying to fill out all this information. We can fill out that screening form, get what we need to move forward, and then things just get going. So for them, it was just a very quick process. And eventually the meeting that we had on a weekly basis, it got shifted around. We don't do that anymore for a variety of reasons, but we have a strong collaboration with the hospitals, including outside hospitals as well. This is for our county hospital specifically I'm speaking about. But we provided presentations as well. So we do that across the board for multiple, not only within our county system for the clinics, as well as community organizations that may benefit from hearing about AOT. But we do find it helpful to do regular presentations for the hospitals, both for the county and then any outside hospitals where our folks are sent. That way they know kind of the easiest way to make the requests and how to collaborate. And then it helps them as well, just like we're talking about people coming in frequently, people who are not engaged with their providers, or there are no providers on board anymore, and they just don't know what to do. Once they hear about the programming, I think it helps just to, and we try to do it every year too, so it just helps. And anytime there are new people on board, we're re-educating people. And we found that really helpful, and we have really strong relationships with the hospitals as a result. So that might be a way to start, just in regards to presentations, and then letting them know how they can make requests. And in that process, you can let them know how they would benefit. We found that to be helpful.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, including them in your regular check-ins is really important. At a minimum, would say quarterly, but initially, if you can, I don't know, weekly would be awesome, but even monthly would be helpful. It's helpful too to identify a single point person for the hospital that's kind of the liaison to AOT, so you can, establish that relationship with that individual.
It has been quite a while since I've been in the field in community mental health, but used to be in the good old days where hospitals couldn't discharge someone without a discharge plan, which included having a linkage to a provider. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to happen as a prerequisite for discharge. And I think that is to the detriment of the person they're discharging. They might as well just give them a return admission, because they're coming back if they're not connected.
I just got a probate order from another county, not Lorraine, and they required within 30 days, like a discharge plan submitted to the court. And I thought that was great, because I'm like, that would be so nice if we could get a discharge plan in writing from the hospitals. Our other issue is our main mental health provider went to walk-in same-day access for their intake. So we can't even have the hospitals give them an appointment. They just have to tell them to show up Monday through Friday and here are the hours. And we're like, who's going to do that? Who's going to follow that? So we are trying to, our judge specifically asked, hey, can we have them go in the hospitals and open those folks up? So we're trying to work on that now to help with losing some of those folks. Because that's that was one of our biggest challenges. But I agree, Amy, that's crazy to me too. We used to always have that. And I think they are doing them. We're just struggling to say, hey, we need to have a copy of that too. The courts asked for it, we're asking for it. And we just haven't gotten those. So
Can I jump in real quick on what Ariel had said in the beginning about one of the barriers? Ariel, I'm assuming the barrier is that when your probate court does an inpatient civil commitment order for someone at a psych hospital in Lorraine County, you're indicating that your AOT program is not notified of that person's discharge from the hospital, nor where they're discharged to. Is that correct?
correct.
So it seems odd to me. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It seems odd to me if the probate court in your county is providing a service to a hospital, because those folks who they do an inpatient commitment order cannot stay at the hospital unless the probate court provides that court order. It seems odd to me that they can't be made to notify the court that that court order in effect has transitioned from an inpatient order to potentially an outpatient order. And I'm wondering, and maybe Magistrate Heather could provide an answer to this or someone else, but what if you subpoenaed the hospital social worker? If the people don't like to get subpoenas, I got subpoenaed today and thankfully got out of it. But it seems to me if the court's going through all the efforts to get someone to the hospital, that court order needs a termination. And the only way to know what happens is by you guys getting notified. And I think maybe wonder if it would help if the court played a little bit of hardball with the hospitals, because the hospital really should fill out a one-page form saying so-and-so was discharged on this date to this address. That takes 30 seconds to fill out. Just a thought.
I can tell you, I've came in with my judge just a little over 2 years ago. Prior administrations tried to do the hardball tactic that's at least what I've been told. That resulted in pretty much nothing happening here in Portage County. As a matter of fact, it got to the point where most private hospitals didn't even want to take our cases at all. They would just say no bed availability. So, they weren't going to get caught in this thing where we were subpoenaing records and staff. So they would just say, we don't have availability for your people. So, it's a catch-22 on some of this stuff. I do a lot of like what Ariel mentioned. I put in my orders asking for discharge plans to be submitted. We try to sit down and talk about their systems when they don't comply with them, because not everybody does, and go, well, some of our hospitals do. What can we do to work with you? Because this information is helpful, in those transition points, so that they don't end up right back in your door through the ER again. And a lot of times what we have found is it's bad communication, or, we're asking for something that doesn't quite work in their system. So how do we get it to work in their system so the request gets to the right people at the right time and comes back out? So sometimes it's just as simple as calling it something different. So it's a little more. Go ahead.
We sat down with one of our hospitals, from the doctor to the CEO to the social worker, and they said, yep, we got it. It's a simple ad. It's this. We haven't seen it. So I appreciate your, I think our judge is willing to he pushed back on that particular hospital's doctor to the point where he's no longer there, because we were experiencing so many issues with that particular hospital system. But that's awesome. I mean, we'll keep trying. I think I think someone else mentioned, we were also having someone go into the discharge meetings weekly with the hospitals. Mm-hmm. COVID kind of stopped all of that. So we're trying to get those things back up and running. So it is difficult. I appreciate you guys are saying that too. I mean, it's not good, but it's not just us seeing some of those challenges.
Right. You still want them to pick up your call and find out what you can. So
I think we've had some luck in regards to, like Amy saying, it's really important to have point person, or to at least know the social workers within, as much as you can. Obviously, there's a lot of staff turnover and people who don't necessarily return the calls. And sometimes we have had to get connected in directly to the discharge planners. At the same time, we do tend to go out to the unit quite a bit. So I think that's probably been one of the more significant helpful items, because hopefully you can hear me. Says the internet connection is a little unstable, but essentially what we're doing is anytime we see that any of our individuals are in the hospital, we're going out, we're making sure that we're leaving multiple messages for the social worker. We're letting them know that we'll be by, and they're seeing our faces, and we're just checking in, and we're trying to get ROIs where we can get them. And then if that is not successful, then we'll try to connect directly with the discharge planner. But I do think like them seeing our faces and popping into the unit is really helpful because you can leave. They have piles of messages and that may or may not, but I do think it is helpful when we can get to the unit. Obviously, it's not feasible for everybody, but I found that to be a useful tool and something we want to do anyway. And that if the individual is currently in our AOT court process, then we have coordinated. I think this is also, once you have a collaborative relationship going, letting them know that we want to set up a Zoom visit. So we have had some cases where we're actually doing a video call and they're having either their initial or a follow-up AOT court date while they're currently in the inpatient unit. Once they're obviously in a stable place where they can understand what's happening, but that also has been useful.
That was something we definitely heard loud and clear
As well,
from the presenters.
in getting something set up so while they're still in the unit and on some medication,
We're
we
losing
can
you,
get that
Alicia.
process started or
Here we go.
re-engage in that process if needed.
Yeah, sorry, Alicia, we're kind of losing you there, but I did want to just, the in-person contact was really something we heard loud and clear too from the presenters at the webinar, that, they really stressed the importance of that, in-person communication, if that's possible. I wanted to respond to something Jerry put in the chat in terms of reaching out to the state associations, both the, for the state hospitals as well as the private psychs. And we have had, when we're working with the state departments, like in Kansas and in Kentucky, and hopefully you get, in Washington, working, working with the state departments, it really helps to communicate with those state hospitals, and you can definitely see better communication in those states when the state department is involved. In terms of the private psych hospitalization association, I know in Ohio, I've been working on that. And we've got the association's attention, but it hasn't translated down to the member agencies yet, but we'll keep pushing that. But if you've got relationships with those state associations, absolutely, I think that's a worthwhile effort to at least communicate with them and let them know what you're struggling with, and maybe they can help.
And it really is so much easier to get face-to-face communication when the hospital is close by, but I know a number of you don't have that luxury, which is one of the reasons that the pandemic was a good thing, because we've established ways to communicate without having to drive hours to get there. So I do hope that your hospitals are willing to set up video calls, not only with the social worker, but the people we serve as well. Just curious, has anybody ever done that? Had calls with an AOT participant or even a social worker? Video calls?
Repeatedly.
Oh, you do?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sometimes like at our state hospital, sometimes they even, in the last year when they have a COVID outbreak, we'll do that. Or I just participated in a treatment team meeting for a probate respondent yesterday by video. Saved me the trip down there. Sometimes they prefer not to have other people come into those, so doing it by video is certainly something they do. We do it monthly for this individual. The case manager participates, and so does the mother. So, and I've done that with some of our private hospitals too. So yes, I'm old, but yes, I appreciate the new technology that's been afforded to us through COVID.
Right there with you, man. Right there with you. Well, it looks like a lot of folks are needing to get to another meeting. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order? to get the last word in?
AOT works. And no matter where you are, what city, what county, what state, no matter the barriers or not, it works. I just had a conversation with a criminal court about this, and they didn't understand AOT, and I talked to them about it, and I said, for 80% of our people, it works great. And that's a huge amount of people. And just by the nature of civil commitments, people are involuntary at the beginning. There's no one in a probate court order who's voluntary at the beginning. And so if 80% of the people get better because of the court order and because of the services that are attached to the court order, that's a pretty astronomical number. And so I think that's a great way to look at it, despite all the barriers we face.
Well, I couldn't have tied it up into a neat little bow quite like that, Nick. So thank you.
It works.
Betsy, any final words?
Nope. Thank you for that, Nick. It's a nice way to end the conversation, but just a reminder that we're available. If you have any questions between now and the next time this group gets together, or if you have suggestions on topics that you'd like us to cover, or if you think of a HIPAA question that you'd like us to ask our expert, please reach out to us. We'd like to get those quickly.
And have a good weekend and a good holiday.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Amy, do you want to stop recording?
Good call. Where is my, oh.